Well, after winning a franchise record 12 games in a row, the St. Louis Blues have gone on to lose back-to-back games in regulation for the first time since January. On top of that, Dylan Holloway, one of the Blues' best players this season, is injured. He's week to week currently. He might miss some significant time here, at least thinking about how much time is left in the season and potentially into the playoffs. Um, and with all of that, the Blues have fallen back into the second wild card spot, and Calgary is hot on their tail, sort of. They've got 2 games in hand, and they trail by 5 points in the standings, but they're right there, and they're still mathematically in it. So, is it time to worry about the Blues and their chances of making the playoffs? Uh, Even if they do make the playoffs, should we be worried based on their recent struggles? Should those concern us when it comes to their ability to show up in a playoff series against um, a pretty serious opponent? We're going to talk about all that and more today on Note News. Welcome into Note News. We are a St. Louis Blues podcast. We go live twice a week, most weeks. It's been a little bit since we've had a live stream. Some busy life stuff, but we should be back on our usual schedule here. If you like the Blues and you like it from a fan perspective and hopefully a unique perspective, then be sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, especially. We appreciate all the love we've been getting lately, so keep it rolling. We're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you want to follow, rate, review, wherever you listen, we love to read those. And we're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at No News Pod. If you want to follow on socials, see when we're going live, see if we have a special guest coming up, check out all kinds of other great content that we post over there. Be sure to check all that out. It's been a while since, at least since I've been on Note News. Alec just held it down. Shout out to Alec for his absolute marathon last time. Did a full episode by himself. So we love Alec. We love an Alec stream of consciousness here on Note News. Yeah, appreciate it. How was that? And how you been?
I hope it wasn't too long or too much to watch. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just get something out. We'll get a Sunday episode out. Make sure people are tuned in. It shouldn't be too much, like maybe 30 minutes or so. And it was a 70-minute yap fest. So,
Yeah,
um, what
it was
did not expect that one.
it was a good listen. It was a good listen. I checked it out. As I am a big fan of yours, I must say. But so,
Hmm.
if you want Alex thoughts on like some of the recent games, if you want like some really in-depth talk on those recent games, go check that out. But
Yeah, I broke
um,
down the win streak. So, and that was, I believe, up to the last game that we won, which I didn't know it at the time. But so
yeah,
that's how far it goes. And yeah, check it out if you want some stats on just how good or bad it wasn't. It was good. It was so.
yeah, yeah. So since we talked last, the both of us here on the podcast, the Blues set a new record for the Blues franchise for a win streak, breaking the record that was, of course, set in 2019. There was another record that was broken since the last time we chatted. So, I mean, here at the top, we don't really have to belabor this point, but this is hockey history happening this season. Alexander Ovechkin breaking or tying and then breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record of 894. What are your thoughts on Ovi and 895?
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely crazy. I remember back in 2021, I think I was just talking with some friends about Ovi, and I didn't think he would do it. I didn't think, because at the time too, that was sort of before the Caps had this just insane resurgence that they're on. But yeah, and also Ovi looked like he was probably on the outs of his career. There were discussions about like maybe will he finish his career somewhere else, and obviously not the case. So I didn't think way back when it was possible. Honestly, I didn't really think it was possible until probably last year or maybe 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, if I want to give myself credit. But yeah, what an insane, just one of those one of those things in sports you just have to appreciate. You can't help but be
Yeah.
wowed and appreciate greatness. And I think too, as St. Louis fans, I think you and I can at least you and I as Cardinals fans
Yeah.
remember the chase to 700 for Albert,
Hmm.
and that the special magical everything that was, and talking with everyone around who was down to talk baseball about Albert Pujols and just appreciating his career, his legacy, etc. So I see these as somewhat similar,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's awesome. Like it's just one of those things you really have to just appreciate, because you don't often get stuff like this every. It's no guarantee. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's the way he did it too. Like Gretzky kind of stumbled to 894. I think he had like what, like 9 goals in his last season or something like that. Like
Well, and Gretzky was done playing at like
yeah,
37, 38, and
exactly.
Ovi's still
So
a top 10 forward at 41.
yeah, exactly. So like he just has like roared to he's at 42 on the season now, like having a great year, like period, not just like for his age, not just for um like it's just a great year. Like if any player was putting up his numbers, you'd be like, that's an elite year right there. That's an elite player, and obviously he is elite. But just the fact that he has kept it up for so long is what's most impressive. Obviously, coming like overcoming the broken leg, and I think he deserves it too. You know, like some people are like, I don't know how many people are feeling this way, but I have seen it out there a little bit, like just kind of upset maybe that Ovechkin passed Gretzky. It's like he doesn't deserve it, blah 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 blah. It's like this would have happened already if not for some things that were outside of Ovechkin's control, like lockout and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So, um, yeah, props to Ovi.
I
And then
think.
yeah, just like you said, it reminds me of Pujols' race to 700. I will never forget that season. And I was lucky enough to be in Bush to see 701 and 702, and
That's
that was like
crazy.
a core memory for me for sure. Like my dad and I
I
bought
cannot
tickets
imagine.
like earlier on, and we're like will we be there for it? Like and it was so close. You know, we missed it by one, but yeah, obviously super super awesome. But
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, and yeah, just the way Pujols did it too, just like defying the odds and his age and logic, and roaring to that number. And so I've been impressed seeing that from Alexander Ovechkin. So
Hmm.
talking shifting from one record to another here, the Blues, they bless you,
Excuse me.
they have set a new record for the Blues franchise in for this win streak. Right, they won 12 games in a row, breaking the 11 game record set in, you guessed it, 2019. Um, and today some of our discussion will be like a little more concerned, like talking about some of the more concerning stuff and some of the more, uh, less fun stuff that's been going on with this team lately. But I think we should take a minute and just like really, really celebrate this truly like historic run that the Blues just went on. I mean, they have vaulted themselves back into the playoff picture after, everyone for the most part thought they were out of it, and um, did exactly what they needed to do. Like we were like, they're out of it unless they go on some crazy streak or something. But that'll never happen. Well, here we are. So like what is your reaction now that the win streak is over to this streak as a whole, and like what do you think is the reason behind the win streak? Like what in your eyes what in your eyes made this win streak possible?
Uh, Number one, a top of the list, absolute peak of whatever is got to be Jim Montgomery for me.
Yeah,
So much of that episode where I broke down everything. Shameless plug was just the difference in stats and the stark difference between Montgomery and Bannister's tenure, and just
yeah,
how much more dominant the Blues were as a team playing under Monty. truly like night and day. Um, and so yeah, I think it's just an absolute credit to Montgomery and to the job that he has done. Obviously, like the whole team does deserve credit. I think there was a lot of things playing well. I do think the team defense really stepped up big. But the biggest thing to be said about that streak was how the coaching created that team defense and that culture and everything,
Yeah.
which starts with your new head coach.
Oh yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I got.
I think if we had to point to like one, like obviously there's so much more, but if we had to point to one reason why the Blues have made this pivot, I think I think you're right in your assessment that it is Jim Montgomery. It's having one of the best coaches in the league, I think. And we've talked about this a few times. I don't want to, belabor this point, but just his determination to not just quick fix this team for this season, but fix them and improve them, thinking long term and thinking big picture. Um, that was his mindset, going into his start of his Blues tenure as head coach, and so I think that has really paid off. I think if his mindset was okay, like let's try to salvage this season, sacrifice whatever we need to when it comes to the future to try and get in this season, um, maybe they could have recovered more quickly. But like it took some time for them to get to where they are now. But I think it has still paid off um, about as well as you could expect. And so, yeah, Jim Montgomery is a big one. Another one I'll point to is just, and we'll sort of touch on this a little bit more when we talk about the Dylan Holloway injury, but just the significance of the stability that we were seeing with this team. We've talked about it a couple times as well on this one, but just rolling out the same four forward lines for like roughly 15 games in a row. There's just a level of stability you hardly ever see. Knowing what you can expect from these players night in and night out, and the ability by them to go out there and do it over and over and over and just continue to execute and be willing to, as you have said multiple times, play for the note on the front instead of the name on the back. And just that stability and that, I guess, like endurance is another one, another term here. I think that has been really, really central to what made this possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's another discussion to be had with any win streak like this, and I think we can sort of pivot to this now. Is it just luck, right? Is it just them figuring something out, going on a hot streak, and playing above, playing at a level that's higher than what they truly are? Like in 2021 with the Cardinals winning, what was it, like 17 in a row? I
Pretty
think
sure.
it was a big victory because it got them into the playoffs, but it's like it's a little bit concerning that that's what it took to get that team to the playoffs, right? And so I think there is a discussion to be had with any win streak like this. Does it lead us to does it cause us to overestimate what this Blues team is really capable of, like what level they're really at? Or do you think they were this good all along and it just took them a while to show up and put it together for an extended stretch?
I really think you have to give credit to Montgomery again. I don't think this level is possible without him. I think that there definitely was like a potential for this outcome to always happen, but I really don't think that it happens if there is any other head coach in the National Hockey League in St. Louis. And so once he stepped in, I think, again, I don't even think that it was like a guarantee that this was going to happen, that everyone was just going to play so hard and fight so hard and for this culture that Montgomery built. Like I think there is still outcomes that don't go so well. So I really do think it is like a high percentile outcome. That being said, I'm not saying that it's just lucky. I don't think it's just. I mean, it's lucky we got Montgomery, but I don't think it's just like players playing lucky and we can expect everyone to regress and the team to regress next year. And that still may happen, but it's not the way that they were winning. And what I've been emphasizing throughout the streak and since was how repeatable and how just solid like the structure of what they were playing in. You know, process over results, and the results came in the form of 12 straight wins. But the process was the biggest thing that was so incredible about that streak. And so, yeah, I don't think it was necessarily like a super un improbable out or unlikely outcome, but it was
Hmm.
definitely like a little improbable. I don't know if I'm gonna like put a
Sure.
percentage on it per se, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is more credit to every part of the organization rather than just a bunch of things happen to fall into line at the same place. Like this was a possibility that they had actually planned for, as we saw with the move like the Cam Fowler move. Um,
Hmm.
this actually was within the realm of possibility within their minds, and credit to, like I said, the organization to be able to identify that something like this was possible, and then credit to everyone
Hmm.
else for going out and doing it. So I'm not sure if that totally answers what you were saying, but I guess I can
Yeah.
clarify more if.
No, for sure. And I think the inability to put together a win streak earlier on in the season of more than like 2 games, or what was it, 3 games, or uh, whatever it was, like that was concerning at the time, in part because we knew this team was capable of more. And so here they're kind of making up for it. And like at the end of the season, the math will probably shake out the same. And, will, I think where they will finish the season is roundabout where a lot of people expected them to finish. They have, if they went out, knock on wood, have the possibility to finish with what, 97 points. And so my bold prediction was 98 points. I just wanted to put that out there, so we'll see what happens. Um, but yeah, like I think where they are likely to end up, which is sort of where they already are because they only have 2 games left, but um, isn't too terribly far off of a lot of people's thoughts and projections. And some of those were a little more hopeful than others, but still. And so when they were struggling, whether it was under Bannister or when some key players went down with injury or just the inability to put together a win streak, like that's why it was concerning, is because we knew this team was capable of how they've been playing lately. And it's like better late than never. And I'm glad it showed up when it did. But like, I don't like, obviously there's some um, percentage of the result that you have luck to thank for. Uh, some
As
puck
any
bounces.
sport, though.
Exactly. Some puck bounces going your way, but like still, um, the what's been impressive is just the way that they have like flattened opponents through the, like it wasn't a win streak where they were like, scraping by like by the skin of their teeth or something like that. It was, they looked like a legit wagon out there, and they were outplaying opponents every night in all 12 games. Well, maybe not all 12 games. We'll get to that here in a minute, but like for the bulk of those games. So like that's sort of what my thoughts are. Is there's a little bit of luck to do with it, but I think they were this good all along. These wins probably should have been sprinkled more throughout the entire season than they were. But I think this is when it comes to the end of season numbers, about what we had hoped for, and what we had expected when it comes to sort of like our more optimistic thinking, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of want to say a little bit disagree with that in that I don't think under Bannister, I don't think this ceiling was ever possible for me. And that's like others like yourself might say that, and that's fine. I don't think you're wrong. Just for me personally, in my viewing and scouting, I never saw this outcome possible for the team at the start of the season as the roster was constructed. So I really do think there's something to be said about just how high the ceiling got raised, bringing in that new head coach who I just can't stop glazing. Apparently,
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so that's enough. That's enough talking about positive things like win streaks and stuff like that. Um, it wouldn't be St. Louis sports fandom if we didn't overthink every little thing, right? So I think we should. Well, I still think it's worth a discussion here.
no. Sorry, I was
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was rolling my eyes at it. Wouldn't be St. Louis sports fandom
There
if
you go.
my
Yeah,
heart
yeah,
wasn't in my stomach every single
yeah,
freaking night, and if
yeah.
they didn't just find a way to miraculously, when things could not be better, turn it all around instantly. Anyways,
what's the
let's
what's
let's get
the
into it.
that little like graph? It's like we're so back, and then it's like,
Oh, it's
you know what I'm
so
talking about?
over. Yeah.
It's
Yep.
so over. Like, yeah, that is St. Louis sports fandom. That is this Blues season for sure. Um, but yeah, so
Every Blues
pivoting
season
here,
ever.
what?
Every Blues season ever. There's
Yeah,
always just
yeah,
okay.
exactly. So this win streak, 12 games, they've been the best team in hockey like since Four Nations, maybe even before that, right? If you look at like the full numbers of 2025 or something, they might still be. I haven't done that yet, but they've been one of the best teams for a long time here. But the win streak did come to an end, unfortunately, on April 7th. So just a few nights ago when they lost to Winnipeg, and then the Blues lost again last night to Edmonton. And they appear to be struggling a little bit. So I think we should definitely sort of open this up and discuss why. Um, but I think the interesting thing to note here is that I think the struggles extend back a little bit further than just these two losses. I think that it extends back into the win streak. We can kind of debate how far, but in my eyes, the inflection point and when they started to struggle is when they lost Holloway to Pittsburgh.
Definitely.
So I mean, like one thought I had was, did it start in Detroit where they needed like a late goal and some late heroics to win that one? But you were there, and like, would you say that they looked like the better team that night?
I mean, Detroit played a really good game, but like they didn't deserve to. They deserved that win. Is how I'll respond to that.
The Blues did.
Yeah, like that. Like I don't know that they were like definitively trouncing Detroit. I think Detroit played them really, really hard, but they like
Yeah.
just it was at least a 50-50 game.
Yeah. So I don't think that is the start of the struggles. So I really do think the Holloway injury um,
For sure. For
is where it
sure.
started. Cool. So we agree on the starting point. So um,
Yes.
we will sort of break down all the Holloway stuff in a bit here, but um, just to sort of characterize like who this guy was that has been this year and the impact he's had. He went down. It was on April 3rd against Pittsburgh, and this was like his breakout season. He was like a top three player for the Blues, maybe even top two. There was a while there where he looked like maybe the top player for at least a little stretch there, and has just been fantastic and played a lot of games too. In 77 games, he has 63 points between 26 goals, 37 assists. But he's like showed up in a lot of interesting ways. Like he leads the team in game-winning goals with 8. He's tied for the team lead with like 3 other guys in power play goals with 6. So like 14. Do I have that? No, I don't have that math right. Do I have that math right? Yeah, 14 of his 26 goals are either game winners or power play goals, or maybe both. I don't know. But like that's a lot of his goal production showing up in big moments and in important moments. He also leads the team in takeaways with 34. He has defensively been the best forward on this team, which has been so refreshing. We've talked about the defense from this forward group being a big reason for their success. Dylan Holloway is at the forefront of that. Um, 34 takeaways. So we'll talk about the impact of losing Holloway in a little bit, um, where we start to discuss like if we're concerned. First, we're going to talk about what's been going wrong and why maybe it's been going wrong, but then we'll start to talk a little bit about like are we worried about the Blues um, moving forward. So Holloway will be part of all these discussions. But do you have anything to add on like the impact he's had this season already?
Yeah, totally, totally. I think that the Holloway injury, I agree with you that sorry, that oh, okay, here we go. I agree with you that that is the start of when things got ugly, and it looks like kind of a little bit scary how bad things are without Holloway. Not that this is just now immediately a bottom feeder team, or even like a team that doesn't deserve to make the playoffs, but I really do think that the ceiling of this team has dropped a notch with Dylan Holloway out of the lineup, and I guess I just didn't realize how important he was to this team's like success.
Yeah.
It's I have to give him credit because he truly has been driving this offense. I think him and Thomas are pretty much leading the way in most statistics to conducive to team success and scoring. So Dylan Holloway is like pretty much the team leader in finishing on the season. He has an on ice expected goals percentage. This is per Money Puck. On ice expected goals percentage of 54.2%. That is best on the team in front of Bolduc and then Thomas. He is fourth in on ice goals percentage at 63 and pretty much tied with his offer sheet partner at 63.2. He's leading the team in Corsi percentage for what it's worth. And as you said, defensively, uh, he's been exceptional, like
Mm-hmm.
truly an elite defensive forward that is just so important to this team. He's as you said, leading the team in takeaways and not doing too poor in giveaways, given the amount of minutes he plays either. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's truly he's 11 defensive zone giveaways, which is fifth on the team, behind our third and
Takeaways or
fourth
giveaways?
liners. Defensive zone giveaways, he has the tied for the third lowest.
Gotcha.
So tied for third on the
Nice.
team, tied with Foxa and Sunquist, who play. Sunquist has been playing more recently, same with Foxa, but we're
Yeah.
playing a lot less of the season. And then ahead of him are Toropchenko and Matthew Joseph, who haven't even played the full season. So,
Yeah.
like this is like the defensive forward on our roster and the team leader in finishing, as I said, and
Mm-hmm.
just dr- puck driving play, game defining play. So
Yeah.
it's a huge loss, and it seriously has me worried about like the as we'll get into the playoff hopes, um, because Dylan Holloway is becoming a household name, I think, in St. Louis, and you really like when he hadn't even put his name on the map. The way he did that was in the playoffs last year, and to think what he could do on a team that he's been able to gel with and has had as much success with is really exciting. Like that's a type of player who can win you a playoff series, an Alex Steen, or a Pat Maroon overtime goal, or who's the other one who had just a crazy series in 2019 outside of like O'Reilly, obviously. I can't remember, but anyways,
Jordan Bennington.
well, yeah, skaters, but yeah, Holloway is huge, huge to this team. Cannot be
Yeah.
understated enough, and I had another point to make, but I guess I'm my mind's moving faster than my mouth here. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's no overstating how important he's been to this team. Just a really really well-rounded player, and his impact has shown up all over the ice. So just looking at since we agreed losing Holloway is this inflection point that has sort of kickstarted the struggles. Why don't we um, describe those struggles a little bit? So like he went down against Pittsburgh on April 3rd. The Blues have played 4 games since then, including the Pittsburgh game. I'm including that one because he only played for 5 minutes, like 5.5 minutes before getting hurt. So we'll include that one since they played the bulk of it without Holloway. So in those 4 games since April 3rd, so that is what, Pittsburgh, Colorado, and then Winnipeg, Edmonton, right? In those 4 games, the numbers at 5-on-5 don't look very good when it comes to um, like goal share and shot share and things like that. So their Corsi has plummeted. They are last in Corsi over that stretch with like 38.7%. Their shot percentage is 42.21%. Their goals percentage is 50%. Their expected goals percentage is 35. That's last, and they are last in scoring chances for and high danger chances for percentage in that stretch. So just like their ability to generate offense, or at least their ability to keep up with their opponent's offensive production, has kind of plummeted here in these recent games. And it's a small sample size, sure. But after seeing them play so strongly for so long, it's a little bit concerning. And so, like, those are some of the numbers, and just that's 5-on-5. As I said, the power play numbers look a little better, still not great. They aren't generating enough chances that are both like in good spots and are of good quality. And the penalty kill is still a weakness for this team. It still looks pretty bad. Some of the worst numbers in the league over this 4 game stretch, and they're just giving up way too much. And in all 4 of those games, the Blues opponent has outperformed them in expected goals in all situations. Like if you look at the money puck like expected goals graph, where it's just a cumulative stat, right? And so all of these 4 teams, Pittsburgh, Colorado, Edmonton, or Winnipeg, and then Edmonton have outperformed have outperformed the Blues when it comes to expected goals, and so they have just looked rough for a few games here. And so, what do you think is the story here? Like, why do you think they are struggling so much? Like, is it just as simple as Holloway is gone, or are you seeing something else? And do you think there's possibly like another explanation here, or an additional, supplemental explanation here? Like, what do you think?
I do think Holloway being gone is actually like a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Because and it isn't necessarily, he is one of the most impactful players on the ice. Not having him definitely hurts. But teams lose their good players all the time and are still able to like hold their own. I think also it's just how much the calculus of everything changes with Holloway out. That second line was such a strength of this team for so long, that they were able to not only rely on that to have, but then also like still have other complementary lines building around that. Obviously, WTF are still going, but now like we saw Dvorsky get back in the lineup, Matthew Joseph out of the lineup, so that's a key defensive player for Dvorsky, who is getting more looks, but still does look not quite ready for the NHL. If we're being honest, I mean he's had some good looks, but the kid's 19. He's got a little bit to go.
Mhm.
But I think another big one is that first line, which actually got switched up pretty radically last game in that Kyrou became a first liner, and the matching contract line of Butch Thomas Kyrou was actually pretty fun. But then like that second line that was so dominating play is also gone too, which is just another huge part of this. So I really think it's not so much like that necessarily Holloway was like just a key figure of this team that you can't win without. Although that is partially the case. It's also that like the way like the calculus of the other lines just becomes so much weaker without Holloway
Yeah.
playing, and so much less synergy. Which is probably the case if any like top 6 forward goes out. But even when Buchnevich went out and like Bolduc's kind of slotted in there, Dylan Holloway really does just have such a unique role on this team,
Hmm.
that I just don't. Yeah, I think it is a lot of Holloway being gone. The defense, honestly, the defense has been playing pretty well. I think the defensemen have been playing pretty well. But yeah, I think it's just yeah. as I've been
Yeah,
saying, the way that the lines shake out.
for sure. And I made the point like a little bit earlier that in my eyes, one of the like core reasons or core um yeah, I guess reasons behind the win streak was that stability and that consistency when it comes to like the lineup card. I think in a lot of ways the streak was built on that foundation of just being able to roll out the same lines every night and have it work for you. And so as you mentioned, when he's out, the calculus of those lines switches up, and it means that players have to sort of shuffle around to make up for that absence, and they're playing out of the position that they were in that led to so much success. And it's just like probably got like athletes are creatures of habits, right? Or creatures of habit, right? And so um, when they play with like the same line mates and in the same role for a period as long as like 15 to 20 games, which is what we've seen from them. Um, when you mix it up, it's like it's fair to expect some adjustment period. But that being said, good teams are able to adjust and they are able to adapt. And so over the next and final two games of the season, I think that is like the main thing to look out for is not just can they win, but how do they look, and do these players look comfortable in their roles? Do they look comfortable and able to adapt? And so, I really do think, yeah, like you said, the loss of Holloway just changed the approach when it comes to filling out the lineup card, and um, has kind of maybe thrown a wrench in the works a little bit. Another issue that Montgomery highlighted was net front defense, like just sort of collapsing, and I think we saw that on display in the Oilers game last night, especially the game winner. Um, Looked like an issue of poor net front defense, and so that is something that needs fixing, especially with that being kind of their calling card is team defense lately, and so that is something important to keep an eye on. Um, but yeah, like I really do think it boils down to the Holloway injury, um, and not just like being unable to make up for his production, right? Like that's one thing. Like I think you can cobble together the production that he was creating with Robert Thomas has been fantastic lately. Jordan Kyrou, if he can heat up again, like that's fair to expect. Buchnevich looks a little better in some recent games. Like I think, and then if Jimmy Snuggerud can find something down the stretch in these final two games and hopefully into the playoffs, like I think you can kind of like make up for the production. It's just the missing role and the way that everyone else has to shuffle up or down to make up for his absence and make up for that hole in the second line. It's like that more than the absence of his production, what it does to the rest of like the roster and the lineup, I think is the bigger issue. Um, any other points on why the Blues have been struggling lately before we pivot to talk about whether or not, or before we pivot to talk about how worried, if we are worried about this team? Any other points on why they've struggled?
I don't think so. I mean, they played two really good Western Conference teams, and played them really,
Three.
really well. They beat two of them,
That's
uh,
true.
and it's weird. We kind of have the Avs number this year. Anyways, um, they played them and almost like beat them. Obviously didn't. I'm not saying that we like deserve to beat them or anything, but definitely like hung with the Jets until they scored an empty netter. There is something to be said about letting in goals late, like in the last
Yeah,
like 30 seconds.
for sure.
Is really tough. I mean, that's happened like 3 or 4 times this year now. That's
Hmm.
tough. That is St. Louis Blues fandom summarized in a feeling. But that
Yeah.
I don't even know like what really to say about that. Just lock it down like when the playoffs come around? Is that like, are we going to lose? Okay, knock on wood, fingers crossed we make it, which I think we should. Spoilers for what we're about to talk about. If that's like a way that we lose a playoff game potentially, I mean, I better not see that happen again for 5 years
Right.
because I don't know. But yeah. Anyways, no other points.
Yeah. That has been that has been a huge issue, and it seems like something that should be so fixable. It's like I don't know. I don't know if it's a mindset thing. I don't know if it's an approach thing, but it seems like something that should be easier to fix than it has been. It's just like finish it out, play 20 more seconds, you know. And I think part of it is just with the style of play that we see from this team. Like they get tired out there, and at the end of a game, when your opponent is sort of holding you in the defensive zone, you can't get the line change at a good time. It's like that's it's understandable that they're tired out there, but it's like you know 20 minutes for the rest of your life type stuff, right? It's like just lock it down, get it done. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been very frustrating for sure. Um, so let's pivot now and talk about whether we are concerned, how concerned we are potentially. So there are a few different ways that we can sort of take this. Whether it's are we worried about them making the playoffs, showing up in the playoffs? Are we worried about Holloway, things like that? But I think just at the root of this exercise is should we be concerned about the Blues? Whether or not we like, well, I guess two questions. Are we concerned? Should we be concerned? So um, I think we should start with should we be worried and are we worried about the Blues making the playoffs? So they don't have a spot locked down yet. They've got
Because it just has to be tense. It can't ever just be normal in St. Louis.
nope. Why would that happen? They have. I'm trying to pull up the standings now. I believe 93 points at the moment with um, 80 games played, and they sit in the second wild card spot. So yes, 93 points and 80 games played. So they sit in the second wild card. Minnesota just passed them for the first wild card. They've got a game in hand, so their points percentage is higher. Um,
Which
so
did
it's
you see any of that game?
the Minnesota game.
Yeah,
I did not.
it was a barn burner. 8-7 final in overtime. Minnesota
Sheesh.
was up 7-4. San Jose tied it within the last period, and then ended up Kaprizov scored in overtime. But
Oh, I did
wow,
see some. Like,
Celebrini had
wasn't
like
it
five
Celebrini
points or
Hattie?
something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Celebrini had
I
a
did see
Hattie and
some of
like
that.
4 or 5 points.
Yeah,
And it's like, yeah, with
crazy.
that one game is like pretty much already tied back with Lane Hudson in less games played.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, he's something else. But yeah, so the Wild now have the first wild card spot, and they also have 93 points in a game in hand, as I mentioned. And the Calgary Flames are the only other team in the West that's still in it. Um, Everyone else has been eliminated. They have 78 games played, so 2 games in hand on the Blues. They have 4 games remaining, and they have 88 points. So they trail the Blues by 5 points, and they have 4 games remaining to make those up. Um, so it's by no means locked down, right? As good as we were feeling a week ago about the Blues having this spot like firmly locked up or locked down, however you want to say it. It is by no means there yet. They still have work to do, and it could change like very very quickly. We could be sitting here in a couple days and being like, "Phew," um, just because there's not that much time remaining. But um, the Blues only have 2 more opportunities to pick up some points in the standings. Right? There's not a lot of wiggle room here. They have to show up, and the Flames do have 4 games remaining. They have that advantage, but they trail the Blues by 5 points. Right? The Blues have a decent cushion, um, and their upcoming opponents are, in order, Minnesota, San Jose, Vegas, and LA. So it's by no means a cakewalk. There's probably a win in there, maybe two, but like I believe we just need the Blues to win one,
Register a point at all. I'm
and
almost
well,
certain
and
1
we need
point.
Calgary to lose. Um,
Yeah, 1 point and one Calgary loss does it.
um, right,
These
but
freaking Flames with their games in hand and at loser points.
I'm
Get out of
sick of it.
here.
I am sick of these games in hand. I'm like, we are here at the end of the season. How do you
And
still
you
have 3 games in
still
hand?
have games in hand.
It's so annoying. Um, but assuming they, not me knock on wood, assuming the Flames do win out, right? They would be up to 96 points, and so then we would need the Blues to win one and get at least a point in the other. So, um, completely doable against Seattle and then Utah. But so that's the situation, right? That's the playoff picture currently. Anything else you want to sort of like add into the mix here? So if they do tie, the Blues have the tiebreaker on the Flames. Um, but is there anything else I'm forgetting when it comes to describing this playoff picture here at the end?
I mean, just that Minnesota just got back Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov, so
Yeah,
they had been kind of on a slide. And the
yeah,
first game back, well, okay, I think they've been back for 2 games since Dallas, but they scored 8 goals, but of course let in 7. So I think everyone's overall thoughts on Minnesota haven't really changed. But like tomorrow night, playing in Calgary, that's going to be a huge game because
big game.
yeah, I mean, pretty much, if Calgary gets a loss, that's huge, and if Minnesota gets a loss, that's huge. Um, Overtime would be annoying, but even then, that's still like you're running out of time to make up points. So yeah,
Yeah.
just that's a interesting one, I guess.
Would you be willing to let, as if it's in our control, like, would you be happy with giving up our first wild card spot to Minnesota if it means they have helped us eliminate the Flames by beating them tomorrow?
I mean, are we getting into playoff matchups now? Because that's kind of where that question takes me.
Maybe not. That's a whole other can of worms, but I
I
think I'd be okay with wild card two. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, playoffs is definitely the most important thing. The seeding and such, um, it isn't quite as important as long as you clinch a spot. Because what a
Yeah.
turnaround this would be for this team, and to return to playoffs in St. Louis. Man, like
Whew.
what a season this has been. What an ending that would be, and
What a
with the
ride.
chance to make some real damage. And arguably, you could say that the second wild card might be a more favorable matchup anyways. So in that regard, I would, but also I do like being better than Minnesota. So I'm not like
Yeah.
necessarily vying for the second wild card. I just think that, yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to make the
And
playoffs.
yeah, no, that's totally fair. And actually, looking ahead at our rundown, we will have a bit of a playoff discussion here in a minute, and so maybe that's a good point to sort of open some of this up. But first, um, going back to the question, should we be worried? Are you worried about the Blues making the playoffs? And if anyone watching live has any thoughts on this, let us know in the chat. Any questions that you want to throw into this discussion, let us know. We'd love to see them. But um, Alec, are you worried? Do you think we should be worried at all?
Nah, I'm good. I think we're good. I think it's fine. Not to be entirely arrogant, but with the remaining games, with everything considered, I mean, right now the Flames are at a 9% chance to make the playoffs. They're the
Mm-hmm.
last team in the West that is yet to be eliminated. Vancouver got eliminated with Minnesota's win, and I think they lost too. Um, the Flames are at a 9% chance. Like, it's just so mathematically improbable for them. I'm not worried. I think playoffs are the next thing on everyone's mind, and obviously you want to see them get there and get there, not necessarily limping in, but yeah, I think, and also like with their games coming up too, Utah has given them a hard fight, but not an unbeatable team for sure. And then Seattle, they've shown that they're able to beat too. Yeah, I mean, to respond to Corbanzo in the chat. What's going on? I think you said you see Snuggerud scoring in Seattle. I'll take him at home against Utah. I think that home crowd is really driving him on. But I think we see Snuggerud's goal because to me, Snuggerud right now is like Bolduc last year, to where he played like 9 games, had 1 goal and like only a handful of points, but mostly just like looked good. I think that's exactly how we're using Snuggerud this year, and I think that's I think he gets it done. I think he gets his goal in for sure. So no, I'm not
He's
worried.
looked pretty good when it comes to like setting up
He's looked
goals.
great. Offensively creating, yeah, he's just looked great.
Yeah, for sure. I I'm still confident that they'll make the playoffs, but I'll be honest, like I like sweating a little bit just because of those stupid games in hand, and it's like how did I'm just frustrated with whoever at the NHL is making these schedules. It's crazy. But yeah, still for the most part,
They
like
have
pretty confident
14
that they can
loser
get it done.
points too.
Yeah,
14 loser points. That's insane.
yeah, yeah, and they I think are really a team that is very dependent on the success of their goalie, who Dustin Wolf has been great. He is having a fantastic season, but they are just offensively not very good, and they're just their game plan is more about preventing goals by the opponent, and I think that when that depends so much on the goalie, it's very easy for that game plan to fall apart when the goalie does struggle. And so um, that gives me some hope that going up against a Wild team that has Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov coming back, um, and Vegas and LA, that they would be able to, you know, those teams would be able to offensively overcome Calgary, and so that's what I'm counting on more than like the Blues locking it down as much themselves. I'm watching these Calgary games a little bit more. But for the most part, as I said, still pretty confident in this team. And while I'm a little worried, I think it'll work out okay. So I think we sort of agree for the most part on this point. But let's talk about another one here. If the Blues do make the playoffs, and this is if, right? All speaking hypothetically here, if they do, should we be worried about like their ability to show up, whether it's against Vegas or Winnipeg? Maybe we'd be worried about one more than the other, but like, should we be worried about how this team will look if they do make the playoffs? What are your thoughts here?
I think it kind of depends on Holloway. To be honest, like
Yeah,
it does
and we can
sound
throw
like
this into discussion too. I was just
yeah,
going to say
it does.
we can discuss what needs to happen with Holloway injured, and how they can adapt and adjust. But yeah, I think this is a big part of it.
I think Pareko, if I'm not mistaken, should be back by playoff time because last we heard was that he was ahead of schedule, and his schedule was to make it back around playoff time too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it honestly depends a little bit on Holloway, because I think we're seeing Monty kind of try out different permutations with Holloway out of the lineup to see what works. And there's some things that could work, but I really think the ceiling of this team is being able to win a playoff series is in jeopardy with Holloway out of the lineup. Again, just because of the natural pecking order of the way everything else falls into place. The way you win playoff series as you win playoff games, and the way you win playoff games is by essentially like winning shifts and winning line battles, not as in line brawls, but as in like you've got McDavid, Connor Brown, and I forget who plays with him going up against Faxa, Torpo, and Walker. Those three have to outplay McDavid plus pieces for that to be a successful shift, which can
Yeah.
happen like on a shift.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and with Holloway out, it's just like, Neighbors and Shen just really kind of don't work together. Plus, I believe Snuggerud was playing with them last game, so that's another rookie that's kind of something that can be exploited, and that's kind of how you lose playoff games. So
Hmm.
honestly, like I hate to be entirely reactionary, but I think it really depends on number 81 for me.
For sure. And like, not only, I mean, I don't know, like this might be stating the obvious. So point and laugh at me if I'm not, providing any good analysis here, but just like um beyond like being like I just think it's a two-sided coin here where um Holloway's absence means that other lines can beat up on that line a little bit more. Like it makes them more liable in that way, but it also seriously limits the second line's ability to do the same to others. And um, like I said, maybe that's just stating the obvious, but maybe it made more sense in my head. But like I just think without Holloway, you don't have a second line that can go out there and win those battles offensively. They're more vulnerable defensively and getting outperformed in that regard, but they're also uh, less capable of going and winning those moments and those shifts offensively. Um, is sort of how I'm thinking about it. But like I don't like I don't know. One question that I had during the win streak, and I think a lot of people thought about this point is sort of is this coming just a little bit too early? You want to be the hot team going into the playoffs. Um, so like they had to cool off at some point, and they have a little bit. So like, do you think the win streak came a little bit too early, and that going into the playoffs they're a little bit more susceptible to getting outperformed because of this sort of period of struggle that they're kind of ending the season on?
I actually don't think so. I kind of think it came just at the right time. Obviously, you'd
Okay.
want to win every game leading into the break, and sure, maybe that'd be a little bit better. But also, I think it's like kind of good to have a reminder of struggle, of difficulty, so that
Yeah.
you maybe don't go in like too like hot headed or with your head inflated or whatever the saying is. And I think that like I highly don't expect them to lose out from here. Obviously, only two
Yeah.
games left, but like I expect them to at least take one of those games, and that's still a fine ending. Because I think it definitely didn't come too early. Or I definitely think if it had come earlier, it would have been negative. And I
Mm.
think if it had been like the last 12 games leading up to the playoffs, that also would have been fun. But then you're working up that much further behind Calgary and everything. I think
Yeah.
by that math, I think we would be close to out of a playoff spot. If we would be more knocking on the door of a playoff spot rather than trying to defend it. And I think again, this is just good experience for this young team to be in a playoff race and have to defend their spot, because hopefully that's the position we're in next season and in seasons to come, rather
Hmm.
than like trying to go on this miracle run every year, which are fun, but let's just get a good team next year. I can't take much more of this. My age is showing already.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
no, but yeah, I think I don't think it came too early. I think it came just at the right time, honestly, and maybe that's just me coping and being a Homer fan. But honestly, like I think everything around it feels good. The team is still playing well, even in their recent losses.
Yeah.
And I think everything, yeah, looks good. I had another point to make too, but it's not happening today.
So, in short, yes or no, we should be worried about the Blues performing in the playoffs if they do make it.
I'm gonna say no because I think the biggest thing. Here's what I was gonna say. I think the biggest thing at this point in the season is that the Blues truly are playing with house money if they make it into the
Yeah, yeah,
playoffs, which I think they will. They are entirely playing with house money, even if they get swept by the Jets or by the Knights, who are the almost guaranteed matchups at this point. Even in that case, and just get trounced, I still don't think we're looking at the season at all as a failure. And also, I don't see that scenario happening where we get swept and get trounced. Maybe we lose 4 close games. That could happen for sure.
yeah.
So I don't think I'm personally not worried about the performance in the playoffs because I just want to see how they do as a young team. I just want to see like how Zach Bolduc, if he can just like be a cheat code like he has been, like he's been so good in that bumper spot on the
Yeah.
power play, like that is actually game breaking stuff. Can if that can be put up against Connor Hellebuck or the Knights defense, give that to me. You know, it can Thomas and Kyrou continue like are they last time they were in the playoffs, Kyrou was really taking over games, but Thomas kind of had a bit of a quiet stretch in 2022 if I remember correctly. Is that kind of worked out of a system now that he's much more of an NHL vet? What does Broberg look like in the playoffs? You know, and just so many other questions here.
Mhm.
Pretty much the only like non-question is Bennington. We all know he's that guy, but like I'm not worried because I'm just so fascinated to see how this team does, and I really do think that they can win games. And I don't want to spoil too much, but I think that there is an outside shot of winning a series, depending on matchups, depending on the factors that always go into um, playoff series matchups. I think that there is an outside shot that they can do it, and like I think that I would say no, that I don't think Blues fans should be worried because I think every other fan base is worried about us, and I think that's a more fun way to look at the games. And I don't know.
It's a good position to be in for sure. And I want to like we can sort of tease this out for not too much longer because we've also talked about this a little bit already. But like, are you like which path would we prefer here? Like, what do we want wild card two, where you face Winnipeg, and then if you win, you face the winner of Dallas, Colorado, which some might say is like that would be the tougher second round opponent than the Pacific bracket, where you might have to face a tougher first round opponent in Vegas, but then you get the winner of LA, Edmonton, um, two teams that are flawed in their own ways this year. Um, so like I have my thought, and I can go ahead and break this down
Yeah, I
if
feel
you'd
like
like.
I've been talking a lot. Why don't you lead
Sure,
off?
sure. So I actually do like that central division bracket. Even the second round matchup I like better. Um, so first round matchup, I obviously prefer Winnipeg here, just because of it's a track record thing. They have been the better regular season team all season long, like, and that is a huge accomplishment in and of itself. They are a fantastic team, obviously, but looking at their playoff performance, especially in recent years, it's very underwhelming, and they have had a lot of disappointing results in the playoffs. And we've sort of talked about this a couple episodes ago, but a big reason for that is their regular season success depends so much on using Connor Hellebuck, so much, and so I just think it's a durability issue with him, and he's just had like he's had periods of greater struggle in the playoffs because he's just tired. Like, the human body can only withstand so much, and so I think that's a big reason why. And so I think they are a lot more susceptible to a first round upset than a team like the Vegas Golden Knights. Now looking forward, like, potentially, and this is like dream scenario, like this is crazy stuff. If they were to win the first round, who would you rather have? The winner of Dallas and Colorado or the winner of Edmonton and LA? I'm taking Dallas, Colorado, and the reason for that is if it's Dallas, I think they are a fantastic team, and I think they will be for a long time. I just think right now they don't look as good as they should. They don't look as good as they do on paper. Their 5-on-5 numbers aren't great lately, and I think honestly, I don't think they're beating Colorado. So I'll just say that. And if it's Colorado, which I think it will be, the Blues just like beat them like 3 times in a row, right? And so like they have the track record. They know how to play against Colorado, and at that point, you could be getting Dylan Holloway back, and so that could be huge. And so that's who I would take over. You face the winner of LA Edmonton. If it's Edmonton, you have to you have to play against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and that is insane. And when the playoffs start, I don't want to face Leon Draisaitl. I don't want to face Connor McDavid. Like those two just hit another gear, and so I would want to postpone that as long as possible. And then if it's LA, they look like one of the best teams in the West right now, to be honest. And yes, the Blues look good against them as well. I stand by that. I think they look fantastic. They've been playing really hot too, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finally did it, made it out of the first round this year. Honestly, I'll say it. Like I'll I'll stand on business or whatever. Like the Oilers only have 95 points right now. They have the same, essentially like not the same. They have a really similar record to the Blues and the Wild right now, and so they're not um, that far ahead. And I think they are not having a great year. And also, guess who their goalie is? It's Stuart Skinner. And so like I think for all those reasons, I think that the central bracket is just preferable for any of the like 3 potential opponents that you could face in each one. But what do you think?
Well, I honestly like first round. To be honest, I kind of don't care. And because I don't care, I want the first wild card because big number and pride and beating Minnesota funny. Like I'm kind of throwing analytics out the window if you can't tell by my caveman speak here that I don't know. I like give me Vegas. Give me Colorado, give me Edmonton, whoever. Like I think this team can take them on. Because I want them to have their metal be tested. Probably Winnipeg does give them the best chance of all the teams remaining. They're notorious playoff chokers. Hellebuck has been run into the ground once again, and his stats are starting to fall back down to earth. Although he still seems to just play well against the Blues. And they are a potential, I believe, right now in the lead for points. So potential President's Cup winners, which means potential President's Curse winners. So definitely like voice crack there. I don't know what happened. Definitely, I think Vegas or Winnipeg is probably the best matchup. But like, I don't know that I really care all that much. I want this team to be tested, and I want them to play the best. And I think they can knock off a team like the Golden Knights. Like I said, no one wants to play the Blues right now. The Golden Knights don't really have fans, but if they did, they would not. They would be scared of us. They have fans, but I honestly, also I do think your point about the second round bracket, like, which getting to the second round would already, again, like we're playing with house money here. Getting to the second round would just be the perfect ending to the season to win a playoff series in any
I can
case.
think of a better ending, by the way.
Outside of a deep run and Lord Stanley, I would say a relatively
Yeah.
realistic ending. Not that it's completely unreasonable, but that they win the cup. But that's going way too much into it. That really, like, to win a playoff series would be such a phenomenal effort from this team. And to do it against Vegas would be so much more credit than to do it against Winnipeg. They are a great team. They are on track to win the Presidents, but they do still have this reputation, kind of for a reason, with a similar core. There would be a looming question mark over that series just a little bit, I think, versus if we can beat the Knights, everyone's going to respect the Blues. And again, absolutely no analytics here. Can you imagine? I know you can because I already told you about this, but can you imagine, listeners, game one in Rogers Center in Edmonton? I think that's Rogers Center. Um, like starting lineup: Dylan Holloway, Philip Broberg take the ice. The place would collapse from the booze, and I really think that like the power boost that would give Binner too would just be so sweet. And oh my gosh, I can't even like fathom how funny it would be if we knock off the Oilers with their own players that we offer sheeted. But that's like truly fantasy stuff. Like if we make it to the second round in any capacity, I don't know that I'm taking the Blues in that matchup. Even if it is the Kings too. And also, I guess the other thing that's preferable to me about the Pacific bracket is I am not that high on the Kings. I think they're so boring. I think they're so slow. I think they're so beatable to the way that we play hockey, to like the fast break Jim Montgomery hockey is kind of a counter to the LA Kings, like Carolina Hurricanes hockey. And I think that for that reason, that actually also, if there's a chance that LA does it, then I think that if we can make it to a freaking conference final, I mean, I can't even imagine. But yeah, the second round matchup against Edmonton would just be so funny, and like making enemies of the biggest team in the West in the past, like since whenever they got McDavid, I guess like 8 years now, I want to say. That's a pretty fun rival to have, all things considered. Because that's, to me, that's a sign of being back to being respected, to being feared, and to being respected. Not that I wouldn't be happy with the Jets. Again, biggest thing is just make the playoffs. Whoever we get is whoever will beat. But I am kind of eyeing that first wild card for entirely vain, prideful, selfish reasons.
That's fair. That is fair for sure. The way I see it, and with just sort of one last pitch, I guess, for the central bracket is just like the I don't think you can overvalue the power of momentum in the playoffs, especially like the Stanley Cup playoffs. And so I see a first round matchup with Winnipeg as the kind of series that would be more capable of generating momentum for the Blues than a series against Vegas. Like that series would wear you down, and even if you win it, like it's gonna be a battle. It's gonna be tough, and you're gonna like it's gonna drain you for sure. And not saying that Winnipeg would be like an easy matchup by any means, but like it's just a different style of hockey, and so I see the Winnipeg series as one where they can get the ball rolling and heat up a little bit and carry that. Hopefully, like if they did beat Winnipeg, I would hope that they could carry that a little bit further. So I guess that's another consideration in my mind for this whole discussion. But I think either way, it's a victory for the Blues this season and what they have accomplished. Either way, no matter what spot they end up in, no matter what the result is of the first round, like I don't think you can say that this season has been anything other than a positive and a victory. So it's crazy. It's crazy that we got here.
St. Louis is back. Point. We're back in the dance, back in the playoffs. Like
not yet, Alec. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Pray to your God, whatever. But I am so here that the Blues are theoretically back in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I just
knocking on the door.
It's awesome.
It's been incredible. It's been incredible and a really, really fun first season to cover here on Note News. And if they do make the playoffs, we're hoping to do some fun stuff. So keep an eye out for that if they do make the playoffs. So we're gonna continue to break all this stuff down. They're like these next two games are very, very important, and so we will be back before too long. I think probably on Sunday to talk about some more Blues hockey, see how they're looking, and hopefully we'll have something exciting to talk about then. So fingers crossed on that one. But we will be back very soon. We appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video. Those are the best ways to help us out, especially YouTube subscription. That goes a long way. If you're listening on audio, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, you can follow and rate and review wherever you listen. And then if you're on socials, on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, you can find us at Note News Pod. We post a lot of great stuff, short form videos, graphics, memes. Alec has been working on a lot of really, really fun edits, so go check those out on those platforms. I'm so proud of this kid. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. As I said, we will see you next time. And as always, let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.